This is one of my favorite subjects, guys. I'm Dennis,
And I'm Mance.
and the subject is what projects actually add values to your home in 2026. We've been undergoing many projects this year, and we really it's fresh in our minds, and we want to share what we learned with you to get homeowners the best value. And the topic is upgrades. What should we actually, if we're planning on selling or remodeling, what upgrades should we actually put in our home that doesn't cause us any harm or we overspend when we come to sell a home? So we're going to discuss that topic today. And Mance, why don't you tell us about some stories?
Yeah, well, there's a lot when it comes to prepping your home to get it ready for the market. Why it's so important now because we are coming upon that spring market.
Yes.
This is the time of year when many homeowners are deciding, okay, my kids are getting out of school, or, just in general, more buyers are typically out during spring and summer. I really want to start figuring out what I actually need to get done in my home, and what would just be a waste of money for me to do.
Yeah, so we'll go into that. And we're going to talk about 3 points here. Number one is some tips to help you not make those expensive mistakes that would put a hole in your pocket when you sell. We're going to talk about first impressions, really what that's about. And also, don't cut any corners, which is really great topics that we've seen when we look at houses. I could tell when they partially renovate and a full renovation by just looking at the slight details on that, we could tell where the homeowner or contractor cut corners, and that takes a different type of eyes to look at these type of projects that we have the experience in helping you guys out. So let's talk about skip the expensive mistakes. Go ahead, Mance. Why don't you help us with that?
Yeah, so what are the actual renovation mistakes that homeowners are making before they're selling? The biggest ones are typically just going too large in their renovations.
Yes.
What we're talking about is the huge kitchen remodels that really don't pay back what you're putting into the property. Luxury landscaping, especially here in San Diego, with the cost of water and everything like
That's
that.
right.
It's really makes it harder for a buyer to understand that, hey, you're buying this property, cost of water and utilities are already sky high.
Yep.
Now I gotta take care of all this landscaping. It's a turnoff for a lot of buyers.
Yes.
And what we're noticing, especially when we're bringing clients through homes, is with the cost of the properties nowadays and the cost of the mortgage rates and everything, they also don't want to come into an unfinished project.
That's right.
If there's things that's halfway done, like you said earlier, or they kind of skip some corners that, if you're walking through, you can see it right away. You really want to be aware of those things before you start having the conversations of putting your house on the market.
Yeah.
Because a buyer, when they're already paying sky high interest rates or prices in general,
Yes.
right? They also don't want to come in and feel like I have to put in more money afterwards.
That's right. And let's look at the data. There's a data report, the latest one, cost versus value report. It brings out major kitchen upscales on remodeling is it could return just 36% only. So we've done kitchens from $10,000 to up to $100,000, and it depends on what the neighbor is, right? The neighborhood is. It depends on the amount of the home. There's a lot of factors that go in there before we want you to spend that money. We really encourage you to talk to us and get that advice from us since we have experience on this. But one thing I do want to mention that what thing all buyers are looking for is a home that they see that's very clean and it's complete. That they don't have to buy and do some plumbing work or something like that, major renovations. Those homes are really sitting on the market longer. So let's make sure that we get that house to where market value is for that neighborhood to get you the best results.
I like how you bring up for your particular neighborhood.
Yes.
Because we've definitely had clients over the years. I can remember one where it was a property in Santee, and it looked like the interior of the home, it looked like a home in La Jolla.
Yeah, yes.
They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars after we helped them actually buy the property because they wanted to update it later on to do the kitchen, to do the flooring, to do all the bathrooms.
Yes. Overkill, we call that.
It was overkill for the area.
Yeah.
Because when we're comping a neighborhood to sale, right, there is a limit of how high you can go for a neighborhood.
Yes.
No matter how much money you put into it, like you said, even the kitchen scenario you talked about earlier, you may only get 36% of what you put into it.
That's right.
So have that conversation with your realtor or us prior to doing some work, because we want to make sure that you're getting value back on the upgrades that you're doing.
Yes, and just a little caution here. We came to some homes that you're driving around and you see these homes are half done. Well, they ran out of money. So they really put a lot of effort and time into that home, and they either something happened, the bank didn't lend them any more money, and the home is half built, and it makes it harder for us to sell that property for you. So again, be smart, use common sense when you do this. Talk to somebody who has experience in renovations, and we could help you walk through these steps. So it's a really great subject because that's really the main topic. I really want to get this the most amount of my money, but there's a smart way to do it. And let's talk about point number 2, and that's focus on first impressions.
Yeah. So the question though, where should you actually spend your money if you're gonna be putting upgrades and renovations into your property and get that best return?
That's right.
The ones that we always see is your curb appeal.
That's right.
You know, that's obviously the first thing you see when you drive up to the property, or if you see a for sale sign in the yard, you're gonna see that curb appeal.
Yes.
So when it comes to that, we're talking about garage doors, your front doors make a big difference. Your exterior paint updates make a big difference, and just making sure that everything looks clean and tidy.
That's
you
right.
know, it doesn't have to be like we talked about luxury anything, honestly, unless you're in those neighborhoods. But if you have a well-maintained yard, you have, you know, clean sod on the front, or here in San Diego, drought-aware plants, that would be plenty enough to get your money back compared to having, you know, $100,000, $200,000 pool in the backyard.
That's
or
right.
whatever it is.
That's right.
It's gonna be overkill many times. So what you want to do though is also, you don't want to have those crazy colors to your curb appeal. You know, maybe you do like more eccentric design. However, when you're selling a property, you want to make it as neutral as possible, because you're not just selling a home for someone that may just be like you, but you're selling it to a big, massive amount of people, and they have all different type of tastes.
Yeah.
So neutral paint, neutral colors of the property itself, even when it comes to staging or designing your furniture, you know, keeping those neutral is very important too.
That's right.
And just keeping it clean.
Right.
Clean. Probably the best return you can get out of your home is hiring a professional cleaner to come in before you start selling it.
Yeah, we're finishing up a renovation right now. It's going to go on the market next week. And again, we want to highlight that the owner didn't want to spend that much money. So again, when they walk up to the house, they're going to notice it's very clean. We did a fresh paint on the front, and in the back, it was a few $1,000s only. By the way, we're fully staffed when it comes to these renovations. So again, reach out to us if you do need help. We could give you the tips. But I always remember this quote my mom told me: first impression is everything. And that's even included when you purchase a house. A buyer would know when they come up to a house if they could see themselves living in it, right? So remember, let's look at some data though. It brings out here, a lot of people think kitchens and bath are the number one to get the most of the money. And that can be true if you spend the right amount for that neighborhood, right? But here's some other data from the data backup. It says garage door replacements could give you up to 286 return on your investment. I thought that was interesting.
Wow, that's a lot.
I wasn't even thinking about that, right?
No.
Right. Another one here: a new steel entry door for curb appeal can bring you a return of 216% of your investment, and 153% of your investment is to upgrade the front stone veneer on an average.
Yeah.
So again, it's that first impression that will attract a buyer to say, hey, I can see myself living on there. So remember, focus on first impression, focus on the cleanness of the home would attract the most eyeballs to your home. Let's go to the third point. A lot of people sellers want to save money, right?
Right.
But we got to remember that cutting corners can harm us with someone who has experience in home renovations when they walk through, okay? So, Mance, why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's the question of how important it is to hire that right contractor, handyman, whoever it may be that's helping you to do these upgrades and renovations. Like you said, with the right savvy buyer or investor that's purchased multiple homes. So, which in our area, many times the buyers are buying their second or third home, right? So they have the experience. They know what they're walking into. You want to make sure that you vet any contractor that you're hiring beforehand.
That's right.
You want to know what their timeline is, their budget is, of course, because you also have your own timeline of selling your property, and it may not line up to what they have. And
Yeah.
like you said, cheap work can also become more expensive later on.
Yes.
I can't count the amount of times
we experienced that. Trust
we've
me.
experienced that,
Yeah.
where we've had a homeowner do renovations on their own, or they hire someone cheap to do it,
Yeah.
a family member many times that
Yes.
maybe just doesn't know fully what they're doing. And then, we get to that point where we actually accept an offer, then the buyer comes in with their home inspector.
That's right.
And they actually, whoever did the work didn't do up to code.
Yes.
So now it's costing the seller even more money because they have to get it up to code to actually sell the property.
Yes.
Right? So you definitely don't want to go through these ups and downs when it comes to choosing the wrong person. You want to verify licenses, verify they have insurance.
Yep.
We always want to believe everybody is a good person, but there is scams when it comes to contracting. We've had clients that have lost tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes,
by hiring the wrong person.
Especially the military comes in through this county. They don't know a lot of people, so be very cautious. I love this. It talks about ask for a referral, maybe some on Facebook groups, but I like this one, the Better Business Bureau. You can look at their directory and to see if that company has any negative reports too. But the whole point is get 3 quotes, use common sense, ask the contractor, how many times did you stay on budget on a project? And we had great contractors and contractors who was almost 50% more of the budget or double it. Obviously we don't use them again, but we want people who are going to offer us an honest budget and that could stick to us so we could get that home and get the most value for our customers, right? Once again, we want to get the job done right. So proof of work. See if you could go into their project and in those remodels and see if you like that style, right? And go into there. But here's the main point. I have everything in writing. You could also work on the contractor's website. There's a state website to see if they're truly licensed to verify it, just to cover yourself. If you are in doubt, again, give us a call. We'll walk you through every step of the way to get you most for your house when it comes to renovation.
And if you're doing this on your own, here's a few red flags to look out for. If you're getting extremely low bids compared to what the averages are, be very wary. They may not be doing up to code. They may not be pulling the permits that they need to.
Yeah.
Like you said, get everything on a written contract beforehand.
Yes.
And the biggest one is many times contractors may try to pressure you to pay everything up front.
Oh, no. Yes, that's a big no. That's the biggest no. Yes.
So what happens when you are on a limited budget? We do have clients where they can't really afford to do some upgrades that may require for the neighborhood or to get into that selling condition. What's some things that they can do to their property to make sure that they're not paying too much, but also getting good value back from doing it?
That's a really great question, and we're doing that actively right now. We're having a client who's military who moved back to the East Coast. He had a rental here, and he opted to sell that property. Has a very limited budget, so we helped him through the steps. He's spending a few $1,000s, and really it came out awesome. We just saw it this morning, right?
Yeah, it looked great.
It really came out awesome. And the main part is that the home looks very clean, and really that's what we did. We really made the front look sharp and presentable. We got the home staged because he wanted the most value from the home, and we really touched up a lot of details on that home. For example, the window trims, we touched up on the paint, we refreshed the cabinets. Those little things is not very expensive. So some other things that you could talk about, that curb appeal. Really, when we saw it today, we were like, oh my God, is that the same?
Wow,
is that the same home, right?
So some things that we did, right, is just touching up on the exterior paint. A big one that always brings a great return back is power washing your property.
That's what we did on that one, yes.
Power washing, making sure, because over the years, especially in San Diego, your stucco gets a little grimy.
Yeah.
Your sidewalks get a little grimy from having your vehicles there.
In the rain.
As well.
Yeah,
so power washing is a huge improvement, and it's very cheap to have someone come out to do that.
That's right.
And like you said, just the basic repairs. Yeah. Getting your little things on your sink or your your light bulbs changed out correctly
Yes.
so that they actually match.
Yes.
You don't want to have two different colors in the same room because it's
Right.
going to look a little funky.
Right. And in rentals, we opted to take the window blinds out because they were old. And usually the new buyer will come in and put their own blinds and coverings anyway. So those little things to make it sharp and crisp. And you could do it on a budget, even here in San Diego. That's the great part. Everybody enjoys the weather in San Diego. I've been living here for 40 years now, and I won't go back to the cold. So really, if you're, again, going to be moving out or upgrading or whatever, San Diego is a great place to live. So again, give us a call. We have vetted contractors on staff. Small job handyman, we can direct you to the right way. But whatever you do, think about these 3 steps about your home. Obviously, don't make the expensive mistakes. Remodel to your neighborhood, right? And then focus on that eye appeal, the first impression that we talked about. And of course, when it comes to hiring or even doing it yourself, give us a call. I renovated many, many homes myself. I'd love to give you those tips. But here's a quote I want you to think about when we talk about renovations. It could be a lot, especially if you're moving. There's a lot of stress. We're here to take the stress away from you and have a great experience. And we have reviews and testimonials about that. But here's a quote I want you to leave. I thought this was good when I read it this morning. I'm kind of a quote junkie, okay? But I want to share this with you. Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. May these tips bring you knowledge and wisdom when you decide to renovate and sell your home or whatever you need to be done in real estate. We'd love to help you. Mance, any other points on that?
No, so basically if you found this very informative and helpful for you when it comes to deciding what you're going to do to renovate your property before selling, go ahead and like and subscribe this video. We do something very similar to the San Diego area every single week, and we'd love to share more information to you.
Yes, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day.